Damon,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, man. I'm excited to be here.
How did you get started personal training?
Wow, that's going to go back a little bit. I got started in 2001 as a personal trainer in New York City at Crunch Fitness on 59th and 2nd. And I was actually going to be a phys ed teacher and I had gone to school to be a teacher, but I finished my credits in school a little late. Didn't find a position. And my brother was a general manager at Crunch in New York, and he said, "Why don't you come in and interview to be a personal trainer until you get a chance to teach?" And I said, "Awesome! It'd be a cool experience to be in because I'm a Jersey guy, so a cool experience to work in New York City." And got involved, got into it, and never left. Resume includes all kinds of fun different business cards in the fitness industry, from regional director to I was actually the national director of personal training for Crunch for a time. So yeah, it's been a really cool ride.
What made you want to study phys ed in college?
I'll tell you what, I wanted to be a coach. I played football in college. I've been an athlete all my life, and I started coaching football at Whippany Park High School in North Jersey, and I was interested in being a teacher and continuing just being in the things that I love, right, through coaching kids, and that's how I got into fitness and into physical education.
What was it that made you fall in love with sports?
It's just been something that I've done all my life. I started playing, as soon as I could walk. My older brother would beat the crap out of me in the backyard. I fondly remember holding an Everlast bag, heavy bag for him, and he would run me over in his football uniform. And I just love sports all as a kid. Grew up huge football, baseball, basketball fan, and just never left me. I played football all through college at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and played baseball actually in a wood bat over 30 league till I was about 43, 44 years old. Yeah, so it's just been something that it's just ingrained in me. It's something that builds character, and builds things in people that help them be better at life. Right, football's best team sport you could ever play. Right, you have to rely on 10 other people, right, to ensure that you have a successful play. So it teaches you things in life that you got to rely on others.
Do you think physical activity is important for young people to engage in?
Oh, 1,000%. I actually trained some kids as young as 10. My son is 8 years old. He's he plays football, he plays basketball, he plays baseball. He wrestled for 2 years. I just think in this era and just changing, as kids have, we've kind of gotten into this information age and iPad age and sort of thing, and it's very easy. I'm a father of two, and it's very easy to be like, here's the iPad. I just want some quiet, and but it doesn't benefit them. They need to get outside. They need to blow off steam, and it also teaches them. It teaches them to listen to others. I coach football and baseball, with my little guy, and it gives them other voices, right, and helps them take direction, stay focused. I think it's something that should never, obviously go away, but it teaches a lot of things about life that kids need that they can't get from an iPad.
Were you a team captain in the sports in high school and college?
Yeah, I was a captain in high school, both football and baseball. I was a 2-year captain at FDU, my football team. Yeah.
Do you see any parallels in motivating and leading your kids into sports as you did leading your team into sports?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're not going to know, exactly what motivates them. All right, you have to figure that out as whether you're a father, whether you're a player a peer on their team and having to be a leader, or as a personal trainer. Right, people come to you and they have a goal in mind, and you got to help them get there. And it's never about you. It's because you're trying to get somebody else motivated to do something that you're already motivated to do, right? So that's something really interesting about relationship building, right? And those bonds you build on a football field or on in any sport, right? You have to build those with somebody who's coming to the gym who may be apprehensive about it, right? There's people that there's a reason why I have a job, and in personal training, there's a reason why. It's because people are uncomfortable in the gym, or they're not knowledgeable in the gym. They're lacking confidence in the gym, right? And you have to take somebody like, say they're a freshman in college, and you're a captain in college, and you have to prove to them that, hey man, you can do this, right? You can fill the shoes. You can step up into a college, in college and play football in college. Same thing, in the gym. Don't be scared about the big weights and the things that are clanging around and stuff like that. And the guy in the back that's 250 and throwing around 400 pounds. You'll be there in time. Don't worry, we'll get you there. He started where you started. Stuff like that. So absolutely, there's always parallels to sports and fitness.
Can you tell me a little bit about the people skills you learned on the field and how they might apply to the people skills you utilize every day?
Sure. Being able to talk to people. All right. Communication is probably number one. All right. Not everybody speaks the same language, and what I mean by that is, and this is one of the things I learned, as a budding teacher. When I was learning that, there's different, verbal communications, there's physical, right, and this is stuff that you can, or there's touch, right, and you have to be able to identify the thing that something makes somebody click, and when that clicks, see, I always talk about how the virtual light bulb will go on over their head, and when you see that, like their eyes open up and you make that connection, right, that's something that in sports. Certainly parallels over to, in the gym.
Is there anything specific about contact sports that is different communication-wise than, an individual sport such as track or lifting? Yeah,
you're always when you're relying just on yourself, right? It's harder to motivate in an individual sport, right? You're the only one that's out there. Right. And so you have to do that on your own. Like you can have coaches around you and stuff like that. But when you go out on mat as a wrestler, like that to me, wrestling is an amazing sport. Right. My niece is she went 33-0. She's shout out to Reagan. She's a beast and state champion this year at 120 in New Jersey. And, what she has done, she's been training since she was like 5 years old. Right. And, there's days where she has to be out there running, go run miles, stuff like that by yourself. And that's that self-motivation, that internal motivation. Right. When you're on a team sport, your others are relying on you. Right. So maybe you're not motivated yourself that day, but, you have a football field, you have 10 others that are relying on you to make it happen. Right. So that's an added level of that's an added level of motivation that you have, right? That you're getting, not just from yourself, but hey, man, I got people relying on me. And, so team sports are a little bit different than individual sports, right? So when you get out there, and I always liken baseball, right? Because baseball is a team sport, but it's a very individual team sport where there's a lot of one-on-one time. You're in the box by yourself. You're one-on-one against the pitcher, right? Stuff like that. So these are things that, you have to be able to self-motivate in those moments. Right. So that's unique. And that's something that can parallel over to, me growing my business as a personal trainer individual. So when I first started as a personal trainer, man, you were just by yourself. It was sink or swim. Right. Nobody else was supporting you to grow your business. They were growing their business. So yeah, it's a very unique environment. So yeah, that's definitely something else that I could translate it over to.
Tell me, as a team coach and an individual trainer, how important specificity is when you're guiding or training or leading?
Yeah, so specificity for regardless of what you're doing, right? Everything builds into something else, right? So when you're doing something specific, a specific movement, right, it breaks down to other things, right? So it can involve other movements, or it can be specific to that one thing, right? So for football, for example, when we're coaching our kids, tackling there's very specific parts of tackling, right? But it all builds into the entire process, right? So you break it down into parts, and it's being specific with a movement in the gym, right? You can break down into several different parts, right? So you take that when you're teaching tackling, because teaching tackling, like you said before, like it's a physical sport. It's a contact sport, right? You have to teach it the correct way, right? Our kids start at 5 years old as, playing tackle football, with helmets, and you have to teach them the right way, or bad things can happen, all right? So you break it down to stance, first step, second step, dip the shoulder, eyes stay up, wrap your arms, drive your hips forward, bring them down to the ground, all right? So you have to teach somebody who's 5 years old and might not even have decent body control at that point, how to do a safe and effective tackle.
Are contact sports technique or art?
Both. Listen, I think football is it's a hard sport, right? And most are, I mean, I haven't played every sport, but it takes, you get knocked down, you got to get back up. And that's the reason, I named my company's name Perseverance, because that's what it's about, right? You get knocked down in life all the time, right? It's what you do about it. All right. So perseverance has been a word that has stuck with me for a long time, and it resonates in everything you do in life, and certainly in contact sports.
I had an MMA fighter on a week ago, and he was talking about the dangers of headaches and, some brain trauma and stuff. So reconcile for me a little bit, you're raising your kids, having a contact sport that can potentially be dangerous or, injury prone, but why it ends up being, why you might think it's worth it in the long run.
Well, sure. I mean, it's first things first. I mean, you could teach things to mitigate, right? Those things. And, there's dangers of head injuries in non-contact sports, right? The sport that actually has the most head injuries when you're young is actually soccer, right? And that's not even it's not necessarily a contact sport, but that's amazingly enough by the stats, that's the sport that has the most head injuries. But to your point, with football there could be some very dramatic injuries, so you have to teach it the right way, right? But for me, it also teaches you to avert your fears. All right, when you're out on a football field, you can't be afraid of getting hurt. You can't be afraid to get hit. Right? And I've gotten blasted on a football field to the point where parts of my equipment went flying off me and stuff like that. And those are the times when it didn't hurt at all, because my body was so loose, I wasn't even expecting it. I thought it was picking up pieces. But yeah, it's something where when you tackle, when you hit somebody as hard as you possibly can, the proper way, right? Injuries, the chance of injury goes down, and then your fear level tends to go down, right? I was lucky, I guess. I don't know if it's luck or when I would put a helmet on, I would feel invincible when I played, and I suffered a few concussions in my day, and before they were identified as concussions, one would imagine, but yeah, and it's not a fun experience, and you never want kids to go through that sort of thing. And once you have to identify it as a coach, any symptoms of that sort of thing, and then obviously we have the proper medical care for it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not safe walking down your steps. So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, anything can happen. I do live my life that way. Like, you don't know what time your day is coming. You just don't know when it is. All right, so just keep living your life.
Just keep living your life.
Amen.
Tell me a bit about the journey from working as a personal trainer to now owning your own business.
Oh, man. What a great ride. And we touched on this a little bit before we started, but you get to meet all different kinds of people. And you never know who's going to walk through the door as a personal trainer. And I got great advice when I was young, as a young trainer. And her name was Anne-Marie. Always shout out the people that helped you along the way. She was my manager, my first manager. And she was like, I was like, how do I get good at this? Because I wasn't necessarily a personal trainer. I had trained some kids and stuff like that, but I was a coach, right? So she was like, be the first in the door in the morning, the last to leave. And she said, learn how to train everybody that walks through the door. All right. So you had to take that in, and obviously, yeah. So that's my time. Cool. I can give of my time. But then the second part of it was, how do I get as diverse as a trainer as possible? Right. So what I can effectively be available for her, for anybody that walks through the door. Right. So to me, that meant broadening my horizons as a personal trainer. Right. So I would take every different certification I could, right, to be a diverse personal trainer. So I took USA Boxing. I took mat Pilates. I took pre and postnatal. I took stretch. I took injury rehab. Right, all these different things. Right, because you want to be able to train people through the life cycle. Right, and I actually have clients. I had a client, Marissa, who I trained for, had to be 13 to 14 years. Right. And she came to me in the most unique, what's a normal way people come to the gym? A young lady comes in, I'm getting ready for my wedding, got ready for her wedding, got her ready, got her, game day fit, as we called it when we were training. And she looked beautiful on her wedding day. She invited me to her wedding. My wife and I went to her wedding, and she's had 2 beautiful kids that we have trained through. She had a difficulty, and we had 3 pregnancies and 2 beautiful babies. Ben and Ethan are doing great. Ben is now playing hockey, and it's just awesome, right? So, you learn all these different styles and all these different aspects of personal training, right? By being able to train different people that walk through the door. So what did I do? I took that and I got the opportunity to go into management as a personal trainer. So now I wasn't just training clients, I was training new trainers, right? And that became the next step, right? Where now you're developing the next wave of personal trainers, which is a really cool opportunity where you have somebody coming in that they're in the same position you were, 3-4 years before that, and you get to mold them and help them in those things. And I use the same things Anne-Marie taught me, and my mentor Jason, and my best friend in the industry, Lenny, right? Those guys, they all taught me great things about personal training to infuse and help these other kids get better, right? And we did really well with that, and got promoted a couple of times, had really successful personal training departments at Crunch, and ended up getting promoted to a regional director. All right, so that now your next level of development, right? And this is really what it's all about, is developing others, right? And paying it forward and developing and building a really unique brand, but also a really unique type of personal training manager and personal trainer within our company at Crunch. And now you're training managers and how to manage the business and generate revenue. How do you generate revenue? By having a really good staff, right? Having a hungry staff that goes out and works with people and gets new clients. So that this whole thing kind of developed on top of itself, not necessarily chasing business cards, but just, doing your job on a day-to-day basis and getting better at it, and then getting identified as somebody that can, help the business and help the business grow. And finally, I got the opportunity when I was a really successful regional director to be a national director, right? And this is where things get kind of interesting, right? Because now you're not necessarily in the gym anymore. You're not really working hands-on now it's more of a function of just driving revenue, right? You have 35 clubs, across 5, 6, 7 states, right? You're a national brand, right? So you're flying out to San Fran or LA or Chicago, right? And you're basically having one-on-one meetings with district managers. You're having one-on-one meetings with general managers, but you're not touching the damn business anymore. You're not touching the people that drive the business, right? And that's where my influence was, right? So that's really what I loved to do, right? So as what happens in the industry, you move on from one place to another. I got another chance to go to be a personal training manager for New York Health and Racquet Club at 23rd and 6th, right in Chelsea, which was a $205,000 a month personal training department, right? Yeah, 35 trainers, right? Which is why you would go from being a national director, because that was in it. You were in it, right? And that got me back in the groove of working hands-on with clients, but also hands-on with trainers and training managers. So it was the stuff that built me into, start thinking down the road of, can I do this on my own? Can I build my own, build my own business, right? Because in essence, you always do, right? I had clients through this entire process. I never stopped training clients because it's what I love to do. But to fast forward, we had, after the pandemic, my wife had worked Starbucks. She had the opportunity to move down from New York to Philly, and she was district manager and transferred down here. We moved our family down to South Jersey, and we moved into Philly. I was trying to figure out, what am I gonna do? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna build my own personal training business. All right, so I linked up with a guy who ran Fit Academy, which was a business over in Brewery Town, and I told him, we basically created my position at his club because I wanted to come in. I told him exactly what I wanted to do. It was a great idea to him because it was going to generate revenue for his place, right? And in something that he wasn't doing particularly well at, which was personal training, right? So we got in there, started making some, really old school guerrilla kind of marketing, right? Getting out, talking to people in the neighborhood. Right, talking to people that came in to take classes that were interested, and just gave a lot of my time, all right, to start doing one-on-ones. And one became 2, 2 became 4, All right, started building up my business and building up my clientele base. That's how I got, started it. And, that's a year and a half, 2 years ago. And here we are now.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
It sounds like there was a whole new level, and rather than rushing through the steps, you were really consistent with each progression of each level, regional manager or, on the floor. Tell me a bit about how important patience with those progressive steps is.
Yeah, it's super important. And I'm not necessarily a patient guy, but you have to identify, within, what you're trying to do and how patient you have to be. And you want to push, right? But not everything's going to happen overnight, right? And it's much like working with a client, right? And I kind of draw from my my strategy with clients when it comes to business, right? Somebody comes in, they want to lose 30 pounds. That's not going to happen overnight, right? So you're basically going to develop a game plan for it. So when you're in business, you develop a game plan, right? You set yourself benchmarks for what you want to reach, right? Do you reach them all the time? No. Do you reach some faster than you expected? Yeah. And that's kind of how it goes.
So you've shared the floor with a bunch of personal trainers or physical therapists. I'm sure you've been able to watch a lot of people do what you do and stuff. Tell me a bit more about what having the background of a sports coach and diversifying yourself in all these different certifications and stuff makes you an interesting fit for helping somebody lose 30 pounds.
Yeah. I touched on it before where I'm somebody who can train pretty much anybody that walks through the door, right? And if you want to have longevity in this industry and you want to have clients that stay with you for a consistent and considerable amount of time, you better not get boring, right? And you better have the ability to change things up. And another great piece of advice I got a long time ago was, the key to results is change, right? And you have to consistently change people's workouts, right? Because your body will hit what's called a plateau, right? And everybody knows what that is because they run into them all the time, and it's what drives people out of the gym because everybody gets motivated. They come in, they start seeing some results, and they keep doing the same thing, and they wonder why they stop seeing results. So as a personal trainer with a diverse background, you can consistently change those things up, right? And that's how sports background. You can add in things that you do out on a football field. You'd be surprised you things you can get. Somebody that works 40 hours in a cubicle. All right, you can surprise some of the things they can do on a gym floor, right? And they need it. They need that before they go home to their spouse or their kids or something like that. They stop in the gym. All right, they have some pent up aggravation that they can let out in the gym, and then they go home, and everything's all good when they get there. So they're getting results in the gym. They're getting results mentally, physically, and that's how you can build off of somebody that comes in consistently. You learn them. You learn what makes them tick. All right, you learn what drives them, but also you can start building on some things that they need as opposed to things that they want.
Tell me a bit about how important it is to push that last 5%.
Oh, it's always that important, right? You can always go a little bit further, right? And there's one caveat to that, and that's safety, right? You got to ensure, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit, down the road. But your job as a personal trainer is to ensure they get a maximal effort, right, within the kind of safety bubble, right? You keep them on the guardrails, but you make sure that they give everything they have, right? And, there's some people there you got to build up to, right? If you trash somebody the first time they come in through the door, because anybody can do that, right? I can take anybody off the street, no matter what their shape they're in, and I can make them sore for 2-3 days, right? In one workout, right? But to be a successful trainer, they need to come back consistently, right? And if you want them to have results, they got to consistently come into the gym, right? So the idea is to build a program that is sustainable, right? That is progressive, that you can develop somebody's strengths, but also their opportunities, right? And build upon those opportunities to give them more confidence in the gym. Because once you get them to a point where they can do everything in the gym, then the world's your oyster in there, man. Now you can really build out programs that are exciting and fun because they don't have anything in the gym that's going to hinder them from not doing it.
If you're not moving forward, are you moving backward?
No, not at all. I would never say that. One of the most important things is to show up, right? You got to show up, right? Not every day are you going to feel 100%. Those are the most freaking important days to get to the gym, right? I mean, you're never going to feel 100% all the time. And this is where we keep trying to tie it back to sports, right? And you talk to, guys that play ball, play football, and, once the second month of football season rolls around, you're not 100% anymore, right? You're 100% of what you got on that day. So I will talk to my clients about give me 100% of what you have today, right? If you give me 100% of what you're going to get a great workout, right? So that's one of the things that you can touch on with them, right? Hey man, you're going to come in some days, you didn't sleep as well as you normally do. You have a newborn baby at home, all right? Things aren't going. So I'm going to take that, right? And we're going to ebb it and flow it. And that's one of the reasons why one-on-one training in person is totally different than, a lot of the things on the market right now where, listen, there's something out there for everybody that's going to help them work out. And there's never a negative thing about actually getting a workout in. But when you see somebody walks through the door, right, and you have a game plan in your mind as to what you're going to do that day, and they don't have that in them, you have to have the ability to take a step back, change your game plan for that day and get them the best workout they can do on that day.
Can you tell me a bit about preparation of that game plan for your client?
Sure. My clients run on 4-week programs because generally you want to change. We talked about key to results is change. I want them to be able to learn, develop through a program, and then once they get to the 4 weeks, I change it up, right? So their body doesn't hit that plateau. We build into something else, right? We're always building and progressing to the next thing based upon what their goals are. But yeah, like there's times when they come in and I'm building off of the week before, and they had a kick-ass workout last week, and so my program is based upon those numbers, and we want to increase off of that, whether it's reps, whether it's intensity, whether it's load, whichever one of those things, and they're not in that same position that they were that day, right? They just got off a red eye, and they had to come in and work, and they're coming in to try to get their workout in after that. So they're 50% of what they normally are, right? So you have to step back, change that load, and you have to make sure that they feel like, hey, I got a great workout in today, right? Because it's really mental, right? Because if they walk out of the gym feeling like they let me down or let themselves down, right? Then they kind of start losing the incentive to go, right? So it's really got to be an experience where, hey, yeah, I'm transparent in the fact of telling you that you're not 100% today, right? But we're going to get the best workout in we can together, right? And that is something that as a trainer you have to be able to shift gears, because if you try to pound them through what you had game planned and they're not with it, lots of bad things can happen. They can get hurt, right? They can fatigue out. They can get disinterested. They could feel like they're failing, right? All those different things can lead to somebody not wanting to come back to the gym.
Who has the harder job?
It's always it's always showing up is hard, and the reason why I say that is because they know they're gonna get a great workout. They know they're gonna get, give maximum effort for that day. All right. Sometimes it's getting there is hard. And my job's easy. Right? I get to work with people on a daily basis that have a goal, that are excited to be there for whatever reason. Right. And if they're not excited to be there, I get to find out why they're not excited to be there. And that's another part of being a personal trainer, which is great. You get to hear all kinds of stories. You get to hear all about it. You are definitely part. We talk about it all the time. It's like there's certain jobs and in any industry where you hear all kinds of things, and bartenders, right? Personal trainers, we hear all kinds of stories and I tell my clients, I'm a sponge. You got to squeeze me really hard to get it back out. So if you need to let something go, and they've taken advantage of that over 23 years. Let me tell you.
It's I had a lovely real estate agent on the show, and we were talking about how every business owner is a therapist.
Yeah, and it's cool, man. I mean, it's they're going to tell you reasons why they can't work out that day, why I'm just what, and you have to navigate through them, and you have to empathize, right? Because empathy is important within any aspect of life. You have to have empathy, but my job is also to ensure that you're going to work out today. All right, so I'm going to listen, I'm going to take it in, right, and then we're going to find a way to get you back on track in the gym. All right, and it's fun. I mean, it's a process, but you really learn, and it's one of the things I taught my trainers when I was in that position. And my mom, God bless her, she taught me this a long time ago. So you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? If you use them in that ratio, you'll be very successful in life, right? So I used to teach them, like, listen, you gotta listen, right? It's about them. Like, they're gonna tell you everything you need to know if you just pay attention.
Does the client lineup for you look different in January than it does in October?
Always. And and I used to look at this differently when I was a younger trainer. I used to get frustrated with it and stuff like that. And I don't get frustrated with it anymore. It's actually more of an excitement for me, right? Because it's like, generally you look at the January folks if they make it to February 14th, or it's a win, right? And that's when it starts to slow down a little. So now it's the challenge, right? It's the challenge on you to keep this person who just came to the gym because they were motivated by whatever New Year's resolution it was, or whatever. They broke up with their boyfriend. They got told they were, they looked fat in their bathing suit, over the holidays or whatever. They went on vacation and somebody gave them some crap, whatever it is that motivated them to come in. Now you got to take that and you got to keep them going, right? And that's to me, that's one of the challenges of it, right? But yeah, I mean, it's part of the industry where people are going to come, they'll spike up a little bit, but it's to build that consistency in somebody, right? And that's something you can identify where it's like, hey, not everybody's the 3-day-a-week client, all right? If I can get this person that's never worked out before, right? I can get them to work out once a week with me, right? And then hop on the bike or go for a walk in the park, something like that. And now you're working out twice a week, right? That's over 100 workouts for the year that you're getting, right? That you wouldn't be getting any other time. All right, so you try to build that and take it, person by person.
How much of your job is technique, working with a specific workout with a client, versus the more emotional things, just getting them back into the gym to persevere, to keep coming?
Kind of 50-50, right? And it's a little bit of both all the time, right? And be honest, you never know, what it's going to be on that given day with that given client. Techniques every day. Right. And one of the things that you see that's getting lost in personal training and in the industry right now is spotting and safety and making sure somebody's doing the workout and doing the exercise correctly. There's a proper way to spot every exercise. Right. There may be a couple of ways of doing it. Right. But, if you're somebody squatting in front of you, you better be in the right position, for whatever reason. Right. To ensure it's a safe exercise, right? So you're always going to be involved in that technique. You're always going to be involved in teaching it, making sure it's done right. Because as they fatigue through a workout, their technique is going to go down, right? So you keep building them, inside out, as I like to say, right? You start with their core, make sure they stay tight through the middle, right? You build a strong core, they're not going to have back injuries, right? It's a great place to start. It's the only place you really should start as a personal trainer. But that's the technical stuff that never goes away. It just never goes away. You can have your absolute best, triathlete client. I had a client, Milan, who just ran the Delaware Marathon, right? She's in phenomenal shape. I couldn't even think about running 26 miles. It'd take me 26 days to run 26 miles. But she did it in a career best. And, she comes in and she could do a lot of things that a lot of clients can't, but my job is to make sure she does them perfect, right? But then there's some days where, like, she'll come in, she ran too hard, right? She's sore, stuff like that. So there's the emotional piece that you have to work through, right? So there's always something that is going to affect the workout. Right. But it's definitely 50-50 where it's an emotional piece where you have to get them in a right frame of mind to work out. But the second piece is your job is to stay on point with their focus and their form to ensure it's a proper and safe workout.
Tell me a bit more about why you feel there's been a lack of safety awareness lately in your industry.
You know what? It's and it's sad. Like there's certain people look at personal training as like, an entry-level position where it's, oh, that's an easy job. I can get into that. There'll be, way I can get paid when I'm in summertime between school and stuff like that. I've been working out since I was 14. I could do that job, right? And, there's all kinds of different certifications out there that you can get, right? And, in order to, have enough people on staff to manage the business in a big box gym. You need to hire kids, that aren't going to make a lot per hour, right? And it's an entry level position, right? And this is where the rubber meets the road, where it's like they're not getting developed once they get there, right? I'm excited. I want to start as a personal trainer, and then they don't get the development as a personal trainer, so they don't get taught, right? So they pick up bad habits. They watch some YouTube videos. They watch some things that they see online, right? And next thing you know, they're doing workouts standing over there, when their client's over here underneath the squat rack, or they're swinging a kettlebell, stuff like that. And in most instances, the injury, there won't be an injury. There'll be some soreness, something like that, but they're just not taught, and they're not developed. When I came up as a personal trainer, I was very lucky. We had a development program built in to what we did twice a week. We went to what was called fundamentals, right? And you were taught fundamentally how to spot, fundamentally how to exercises, right? Eight body parts, right? You had to do push pull through 8 body parts, right? Whether you were working with a beautiful set of equipment or you're working with a towel, all right? And that's how I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm building up I didn't realize it at the time, but they were building my confidence as a personal trainer. Like, you don't need all this equipment to put somebody through a kick-ass workout and a safe workout. We're going to teach you how to do it.
This is really cool. Just a couple of weeks ago, I'm in the film industry, and I was discussing, I had a stunt coordinator on, and his number one core value was safety. So we were just talking about this. But he was also discussing about how, many of the film sets we've been on, there's been a lot of dangerous stuff that's been happening. And he made the argument that there should be more attention to detail in the training and the certifications people are required to have to perform that role. Do you think there's anything that your industry could do, at a certification level to ensure that people are taking this more seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something that's going to be, it's difficult to monitor and police, right? So to me, as somebody that was in a position of power in box gyms and corporate gyms, stuff like that, I made it something that was part of the program when I went through different whether it was New York Sports Clubs or New York Health and Racket or Crunch Fitness or whatever the gyms I was working at. I made sure that was part of the development process of our personal trainers, right? I don't know in this day and age if you can police it to the point where you have to have somebody get certified in safety, because then it's just a piece of paper. They have to put it into practice, right? And that's the stuff that's hard to police, right? And when you're working in these different gyms, you have somebody that's a general manager of a club that might not be somebody that's versed in fitness, but they're the person that's overseeing the fitness department because they're a general manager. Their job is to drive membership sales, that sort of thing. And they're driving a spreadsheet. They're driving a P&L, right? So you don't have somebody that's there every day to bring on, hire, and develop the personal trainers. So would I love to see it? Absolutely. I think that would be great. I just don't know how you would police it and put it into practice.
At the very least, it feels like an interesting marketing tool to your clients to explain how important safety is to you, and that safety might be something that they might not be getting somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be able to delineate and you're going to be able to show that you're in a different space as a personal trainer. One of this girl, Sarah, who just moved, sadly for me, she moved down to Maryland. She was training with me for about 2 years, and when she did a nice write-up about me, and she said, if I was going to sum Damon up in one word, it'd be safety. Right? My workouts were great, and he kicked my butt and all that stuff, but I never felt in any time, she said, that I was doing something where I was going to injure myself. Right? And you could sum that up with pretty much any one of my clients. I have clients as young as 10. I have them as old as 70, 73. Right? I trained Janet this morning. She's coming off a knee replacement. Right? So, I mean, you want to talk about fun for a personal trainer? You gotta dig in, and you gotta make sure that you're putting your every effort into ensuring that her workouts are simple, safe, but also to the point where she can get to where she needs to go. Right? Because now there's no more physical therapy. She's handing you the ball after physical therapy, and she's saying, "Get me right." So yeah, it's something that safety is head and shoulders above anything else. You're the guy you had on with, I could imagine, stunt coordinating, that sort of thing. I'm not getting blown up on set or anything like that, but I agree with them 100%.
It's so interesting to me that the technique is so important, the amount of weight you're lifting is so important, but the biggest thing that's going to be holding people back from seeing progress to get to their goals is just consistency and maintaining that workout for months and months on end. My biggest takeaway from this conversation is what you said about change things up and make sure that things are staying fun, that there's always something new that we're learning. Tell me a little bit about what fun means to you and how changing things up leads into that.
The fun comes, number one, from building relationships with your client. All right. So you have to know them. All right. You have to know what makes them tick. You have to know what's fun to them. All right. What's enjoyable to them. All right. Everybody has a different thing that makes them, outside of the gym, which makes them, enjoy life, what they're working out for. Right. So you got to know what's fun to them, what exercises they do like. Right. So you can then build those into the next workout. Right. You progress it to a different way. You add in a different piece of equipment. Right. And but it's the fun piece of it is, hey, I know that Chris's, your motivation in the gym is to, do better, lift more weight than you did the last time. Right. So, all right. So I know that in the back of my head, I can motivate you with that. All right. So what's going to be fun? All right. So it's not flat bench this time. It's incline dumbbells. Right. Hey man, you're starting off with, last time we did these, 6 months ago, you were lifting 45s, right? If I'm, I can needle you a little bit and not get you motivated. Cool. It's like, all right, we're going to start with some 40s because, I want to make sure you're, right? And that's going to get that person going, right? Hey, I can do 40s. I can do the 45s. All right, cool. All right, great. Now, all right, so you're going to lift your feet off the ground, so you're going to have no stability, right? And you're still going to lift the 45s, right? And now you're adding that little fun into the workout, right? But you're still challenging the area that they want to work on. You're adding, additional load, right? And they're enjoying the fact that they're getting progress and they're seeing bigger numbers, right? And that leads to results because you're changing the stimuli, you're changing different things, right? You're changing, the exercise in different ways, but still building up the result.
Do you think that could apply to other businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a piece of any type of, whether you're in a boardroom, whether you're, working in an office, right, where fun is important, right? So, it's something as simple as doing, we did a NCAA tournament pool with all my clients, all right? And that was something that now, you kind of scale back. Like, my clients know each other, right? Because they see each other in the gym, right? That's fun, right? So they're not, whether they're friends or not necessarily friends, but like I find out like secondhand that they went out and they went to happy hour the night before, stuff like that. And you're like, and you kind of like smile about stuff like that. You're like, yeah, we're building a little community here. It's awesome, right? But the fun part is they're interacting with each other. Nate just sold his house, so I did train Nate and his wife. They just sold their house, right? So we have another client in there who's a real estate agent, so he wants to know, yeah, hey, how'd that go? Stuff like that. And it just cues up different conversations, and they build relationships, and now you're building a bond in the gym. Another thing that's going to get them to come to the gym.
That gave me chills. It was so exciting hearing so many in my industry. There's a lot of like non-competes being signed, and like I don't want to share too much client information with you if you're getting hired on something. But it sounds like you're just bringing people together. It's like the rising tide lifts all the boats.
1,000%. You just nailed one of my favorite quotes. I love that quote. I've never been intimidated by other trainers. I tell people all the time, there's no, you don't have a set, there's nothing you can look at my exercises. I don't have a patent on it, right? You want to, take it, by all means, I'll help you do it, right? I'll teach you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, that sort of thing. So you can then do it with your clients. Because in the gym I'm in right now, there's, several different, trainers in there that run their own business, right? And I'll be happy to, pass along some information, that sort of thing. Why are you doing this? What are you doing with that? Like half my equipment's in there. They all use it. I'm not, running around going, don't use my kettlebell thing. No, man. I mean, it creates fosters a positive environment, right? I love working in an environment where like you're talking to everybody and everybody's kind of rubbing elbows, that sort of thing. One of the fun things in the gym that I'm in right now is I grew up, I'm a Mets and Jets fan, right? And, so I'm in, enemy territory down here, right? And, the guy who owns the gym, it's kid John, is also a Mets and Jets fan, All right. So I was like, how the hell did I find a guy that's, roots for the same two teams in the middle of Philly? Right. But now all the clients and everybody that comes in, they're all Phillies fans. They're all Eagles fans. So we get beat up pretty good about the Eagles and the Jets. Right now we get a little leg up with the Mets over the Phillies, but that's another thing where you're interacting with others and they're having fun in the gym. And it goes back to your question before, was like, how do you make it fun? You know people, you interact with them. You just talk to them on a human level, right? It's not always about, hey man, I'm coming in to do 315 today. It's like coming in to get a good workout. And that workout's going to be part with, all right, hey, so Milan's coming in before me. Sarah's going to be in after me, right? I get to talk to Sarah. She's going to help me build my website, because that's what she does, is web design, right? And it's like you meet all these individual people and you meet the different things and what they do. Now it's this like cool little network that you have. And, right now Sarah's building a logo for somebody, and for there, because they're building their own physical therapy. And so it's really cool. It's cool networking. It's fun. But you get to be part of like little parts of other people's, success stories. And I love that.
I feel like most of the people that are coming to your gym are also sharing similar core values. So they're all going to get along really well with each other and do business well with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I love watching. I mean, certain people will talk about, some people will talk about their job. Some people will talk about, business, stock market, whatever it is, stuff like that. And then somebody from the other side of the room will throw in their own comment over the top of that. And I think that's one of the things that we need to continue to foster, because open airing of ideas, kind of got trampled on for a while there. And, it's okay to not think the same as me. I don't want clones. I don't want, to train the same people. I want people to have a different opinion, right? I could talk to you about it and, in a respectful manner while we're working out. And you can agree with somebody's point. You can disagree with somebody's point, but they still have to do the next 10 reps, that's the beauty of being in my position. It's like, all right, cool. Let's get going.
Yeah. That's huge. Oh, I love that. Tell me a little bit about what it's like running a business and raising a family at the same time.
Oh, the cool thing, I am in such a great position, right, with running a personal training department and run my own business, right, where I can prioritize my family, right, and thanks to my wife and what she does, she works from home, but I can get my clients in from 5 a.m. To noon. And I get home and I get to coach youth football with my son. I get to coach youth baseball. I get to see all my daughter's cheer competitions, right? You don't miss out on any of those things. And I think we touched on this earlier, like how do you get from like where you were into running your own business, right? That was one of the things where you lose out on when you're working on somebody else's schedule, right? And PT is a hard business and you have to put the hours in, right? And I understand that from a corporate perspective, but there comes a time when working 9 to 8 just doesn't fit in, your life. All right. And that's one of the things that got me from New York to Jersey, which was, and down here, which was, I want to control my time a little bit more. Right. So yeah, family life, I get to, leave the house when it's dark. I get to, my wife's at home, to get my kids off to school. And, when they get home from school, I'm there. So it's a really, really cool place I'm in as running my own personal training business, right? I get to pepper in some people at night? Sure. I train some tennis kids after school, right? And, and I work my, those around, coaching, right? And so it's like, I think I have a great positive impact on my kids' lives, right? They certainly have it's the most positive impact it could have on my life, which is being there and available and present in their lives.
I love that. What's next for you?
To continue growing my business, I truly enjoy the one-on-one experience, right? I do online training, and I build out programming, right, through online, but I have to have that one-on-one connection with somebody. So it still has to have, that component, right? Whether I'm doing a training session virtually or I'm doing it, I'm meeting with you at least once a month to know how the sessions are going, and I can monitor them through my app. But to me, it's really just continuing to network and grow my business organically through my clients, and just learning more, getting lucky enough to run into more people like you, and being able to hear their stories and develop myself as a personal trainer, but continue to help people get to where they want to go.
Where can we find you?
You can find me over at Astro Gym. It's 1357 Ridge, right in Philly. Or you can find me on Instagram at perseverance.pt.
Damon, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, man, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day. This was great.